Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to The Alchemist and the Oracle, a space where we engage in spiritualized conversations that deepen understanding, inspire transformation, and spark meaningful dialogue about life's most profound truths. I am Nicole The Oracle, and I am joined by my co-host, Warrioress, Ardeshir, the Alchemist.
Howdy, everybody. What's shaking?
Welcome to The Alchemist and the Oracle. Today we're getting into conversation. We're exploring, going deeper down the rabbit hole of the loneliness contagion that was released in 2020. So we're going to get into conversation about the original video that was entitled COVID Released a Contagion. So with that, my dear warriors, Ardeshir, what was something that rewatching it, you feel like we need to kind of explore a little bit deeper? Because there was something that came forward for me that I'll share later.
I guess the biggest thing is about the loneliness and the fact that it may still be continuing and that we have something else that has come to the forefront. That's another one. So me and you've had a conversation about the mask thing and this other virus. I can't pronounce it. I'm not going to try. I don't
Which
want
virus
to.
at this point? Which one you talking about? There's like 3 now.
Okay, I was only talking about one. I can't pronounce none of them. I don't want to. So
it doesn't matter because they're not real.
They don't. So
I mean, they are real, but not real. Allegedly for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, I know about, not only was loneliness, but it was also when we masked up, it kind of hid a certain part of us. Now you're talking about the hiding away. Now you also talked about the fact that people wear masks. I talked about how, or maybe that the Asian culture was doing that anyway. If you had a cold or something, and if you do that or go to work or something, where we say, well, if you are not feeling well, stay home. But for most people, that's not an option, which kind of sucks because of the rest that the body needs if it gets, endowed with something, virus, bacteria, whatever. And the idea of having to wear them now, I was just out and about, and there's a few people who are wearing masks now. And of course, the thing is like, why are they wearing the mask? Why are they wearing the mask? The thing of it is you don't know why. So most people who have some, weakened immune conditions normally will wear them. And that's mostly a protective measure for them or that. And then we talked about what it is and kind of what's going on. I'm gonna say the nature of what's going on now is a little bit different. We're feeling a different kind of way because of what's going on in the world right now, contrary to being not so much isolated, but we can get isolated in our own beingness as well, especially what's going on with the world, with the wars, with the different things of that nature. And we get caught up, in the whole dogma of everything around that without looking at, why it's happening, kind of how it's happening. And we talked about destruction versus chaos and what comes from it. To lose life, as we would say prematurely, is a sad dynamic when we look at it, which in that aspect then we were losing life. I always talked about, I'm into being proactive as much as possible because I've been through the other reactive or type of things. And I'm thankful for those who have presented, but also about taking ownership myself of what goes on in certain conditions. COVID was one of them, which was eating, keeping my immune system up, staying positive, in the essence. And then we talked about, training and how that kind of played a real good factor for me getting with COVID, and also touching into my intuition about what was going on and how it played, and looking at, overcoming certain dynamics when it came to having to isolate. If I'm somewhere else, or some of us or people have like home offices or something like that, or if you've been staying with your girlfriend or boyfriend, and then that went down, they're telling you to stay. That means you don't get to go to your house. That means you have to stay with them, and you don't even get to see siblings. You don't get to see anybody. So it was all about, and even today with the war, the things that's going on, which is another type of inclusion, because there's a lot of people not going outside for the sake of fear, for the sake of these other quote unquote viruses being out in the public. And I have not been one that I feel, with what I know, and then scientifically, not only spiritually, but looking at them both, for which I've heard that there's most scientists don't believe anything other than what they can see and manifest. Well, I'm that other type of scientist. I'm not that one. I know that there's some higher, more powerful than I, and I also love science as well. But understanding the dynamic of it is getting to the root, into the truth, which is about taking care of me. Me taking care of me has me less worried about kind of the outside world to a degree, because of my mentality. And when you get somebody, you with your people, when you get somebody that doesn't know you but listens to you speak, and they find out that you are a mind over matter person, because our mind, which means it don't matter, means that I have to do certain things that's necessary to keep me whole. Like now, exercise is huge. Aging is a concept that I can't get by. The fact that the state of mind that I'm old is mine too, because it is a state of mind. I ain't old. I may be older, but I'm not old. So I have to look at that dynamic and those things. So when I look at what pulled up for COVID, and the protection and the mask, and like I said, I had all kind. I had played into it. Did I give a care about myself? Yes, I did. But I also had to go a little bit deeper, and kind of look at things for what they were, because I couldn't understand at a time where I had done or had the things that I take to help allergies stay away from me, so I'm not affected so much, which is a food-based supplementation. And I couldn't understand the certain dynamics of what was in the air, because with no one outside, with no one, this was, kind of was the prelude. So I felt if I'm outside and I'm in the fresh air, I should be good. And I just think that we have to look at things beyond what is being said, beyond the news. Yeah, I feel that you have to go deeper. When you go deeper, do the research, do the things, you'll find out that is not as what's the word I want? Not as diastrous or
disastrous.
Oh my God, what is up with that? Yes. Why can't I say that word? That is crazy. I find out there's some other words that's just like really interesting to me. Yeah, I can't even say it. So yes, thank you, dear.
Disastrous.
Yeah. Disastrous. Yeah.
It's fine. Proceed.
Well, if anybody can laugh at me, if I can, you can. I don't care. So you know what I mean. So, like I said, it's all about awareness. It's all about that, and doing what is best and highly good for you in the moment. So when I look at loneliness differently, because my ego, or the illusion thereof, would have me think that because we're going through something that we are. I just honor space. I honor quiet time, even though it's not done in the way that I thought it needed to be done. So I realize that I'm in that space because I see me continuing to grow and continuing to learn. So when we look at some of the things when it came to relationships, is still for me is to when you are when you it's just like when people change jobs or they're laid off from work and they're at home, is you find a way to shift, you find a way to honor, you find a way to continue to learn who you are. And if you're in a relationship or in a marriage and you have kids, to find out exactly who you are together, find out how your kids are learning, because they do kind of piggyback off of you and your reaction. So it's just like a storm. So even my Russian blue feline, and not unless it was like one of those boom, then we would both jerk. But for the most part, we were just happy go lucky. Storm, lightning, fire, lightning, thunder. We didn't have that reaction. And even though she wasn't a human child, she was very much mine. And they watched that child watched every move I made. So when I look at, you know, this particular thing of contagion, is I choose to learn more, and I choose not to allow myself to go into a panic or worry, because it doesn't serve my nervous system any good or me any good, because of the reaction that happens in my body. And I don't like that feeling. So when we were talking about, when I was saying about the loneliness, or how we need to find out exactly what that means to us and how that feels when we're going through something. So just look at the wars that's going on right now. So, the news, the feeding, we feed off of that, and we still find a way to isolate. Even in the mind, in the home. Some people won't go out. We're looking at gas prices. We're looking at all these different things that shot up, and it's higher now than it was then. So there's definitely, been a shift. And so I try to sit at a point of allowing myself to permeate, or to see what feels, right for me in a time like this. And even with my background, my history of serving my country, this and that, do I think war sucks? Yes, I do. But we also talked about it from a place of understanding that there's change and that there's a shift going on. And even with the shift of the seasons, there's a dying, there's a destroying, there's a renewing, there's a lot going on within that process, of what I found out at that time. And then you get to a point of, does this make sense? The whole world is shut down, all over the world. How does that compute? So, and there's been discussions around it. There's been, front yard discussions, and what was so cool about, like, when we were talking about the rebelness of it. So the rebelness of it was the belief that we would be okay.
Right.
And we were. There's some people that, in the midst of the chaos, it was like I was saying about getting creative. People instilled to that, created new jobs for themselves. If we didn't sit it, we get pissed. We go through all the anger channels. Like, where's my money? Where you come? Well, you get a little bit of money because you've already done the work, because they pay you after you do the work. And so it's how you look at it, how you sit down, how you come together. And instead of going into panic, and I've done it, and it's not a good thing, because you can't really do anything when you're in panic mode. So that era was a panic mode. And so for most people, they like shift. They're like, well, hell, I'm going to do this. So for some of the people here in restaurants here, they's like, well, hell, if I do right by myself, I wear a mask, I put the gloves on, which they're supposed to do in the industry of food and different things like that, hair nets, things of this nature, is that you could still run your business and you could serve people from their car. And nobody would be together. And there's a lot of people who created, and money was still being made, money was still existing. It was just done differently. People still bought. People made shifts. People made that, and today we need to continue to work from that creative mindset, and honoring the gifts and talents. What I think that COVID brought out is we found out whether we were good in relationships or not, and then we found out how dynamic we were to some degree if you were allow yourself to sit and turn that for the businesses that were created from that, So there was a lot to be learned. There was a lot of breakthroughs from that. Like I said, went through training, was a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of losses still yet. And some of those losses weren't from the virus. They just were people who were already, in a state of dysfunction in their body. What I didn't understand at a younger stage in my life is that when we go through things, it's a test. It's a test. Not all of us like to be tested, but it's a test of well, the word came to me, resonance, but the word I want is another R, is for resilience. Resilience. And how you come from that, because these things happen, and the test is who do you become from the test of such things? Do they suck? Yeah, they suck. I can't say, because I've had to do this. I won't say how many decades ago. Let me see. Oh, well, it don't matter. But to understand that I had to do this same thing at one time, and thank God that I did some other things that didn't really put me in the lose the roof type of thing, is the reason why, I like to teach kids to honor, what it means to get your money to work for you, or to save, or to do whatever that is. So when something, happens, you are not at that state of panic. But for those who are, you can see that some of the people, and still some of the people I talked to today, who say that in 2020, they created business. Some relationships found out what they truly were, probably sooner than not. And some other dynamics came up about what was going on, and how, there was some bamboozling in it. So that's all. I just learned that continuing, because it took a few years. Even 2021, there were some people who started to travel, but even then, it still was in 2021, and still into the 2022. I think we're still getting at a point where we're still kind of becoming home, and now we're at another dynamic with war and the gas prices going up, similar, if not around when we were dealing with 08, 09, right? So it's a learning structure. And if we don't see that, then we can't get through it, in my opinion. And that contagion still brings about the loneliness. Is like, and I may say, well, if the gas is that way, I have to shift my dynamic. So I will only go here where it's necessary for me to go to this place, and honor that. But I also know that my abundance doesn't come from me. So if there's somewhere I need to go, it will be provided. It would be provided. And that's the nature of sitting in the spiritualness and shifting the dynamic in your mind about what you have and what you don't have in turbulent situations. And we are more abundant than we realize. Let me say, and bless. Some people use the word. You can define that word however you choose. There's many synonyms to different words in that aspect. And I know you have a different take on it, but I kind of look at it as shifting the mindset, and always will. And it's a continuing daily process of doing so and honoring the space in the present moment. Plus, if you have a roof over your head, God bless you. Even if you don't have a house and you do have a roof, whether it's shelter or something, that's a blessing. I just look at it a little bit differently because I know what I've done to shift the atmosphere at really trying times where I didn't know what I was. And one of it was recently, it was 14. Before I made the move, something I really, really, really had to do. Didn't like I had to do it, but I did it for the sake of not only thriving, but for survival. So yeah. So I can tell you that was the pandemic was and then there's somebody and some people who are still living today who went through two of them, which is just amazing to me. And to have the conversation with the elders, yeah, they have something to share that can help us through anything, I believe. And to still be living, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I love to talk to anybody that's 100 or 90 something, 80 something years old. So I end with my spiel about that on how I think. And I think you have to look at loneliness, you have to look at tragedy and different things from an aspect differently than how the world wants us to see it, because there's something that we can find good out of it. It's just sometimes we don't see it. So yeah, yeah. So that's about the most I have to say on what I looked at when we kind of spoke about those things and how we, for those who we've lost, I've always had a lot of love and a lot of prayer for that, but I understand from a different dynamic that their presence is still very much here. But I think it was so much about how we were isolated, and we still are to a point. It's just that you have to recognize where that isolation is for you. And I'm all about breaking through and shifting it. So, and I know you have another take on it, so I'm going to let you kind of get to it and through it.
My take is one of looking at the reality of why that was even a thing. And I think now we've gotten to the point where we have some insight. I think I don't know if I need to say this, but for entertainment purposes only, is this entire segment, I'm just speaking from an entertaining you standpoint. With that, the Epstein files have come out, and what's been really interesting about the Epstein files is you're starting to see some conversations, some back and forth engagement with, allegedly it's supposedly him and like other people. And one of the conversations, quite disturbingly so, that someone, was revealed in those files was that the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, was actually a planned event.
Yes.
So when you read in through the files, it says like, oh, we need to do this for, it's always experimentation. And one thing about me, my history in terms of my career, is that I started my career in high school working for a major public health government agency. And I know the reason now, but by the end of my time working there into adulthood, I was at a high level in meetings that at the time, I was like, why am I here? I do not have secret clearance. And so I've been exposed to a lot of things, and I understand that the systems that are in place. And so with that realization, with the revelation of, like the Epstein files talking about how this is planned, it's clear to me to see, okay, what we're going through is a continuation of the plan. So we have all these wars going on. We have all these, like the news is talking about the gas prices are really super high. And when I have conversations with people about the gas prices, they're not as high as when you listen to the news they talk about. And I think it does depend on where you are. Like, yes, the prices have gone up, but it's not like this huge, like it's gone up like $20 or $30 per se. And, I understand if you are trying to stay within a certain budget, it impacts your budget. Like 100%, I get that. So this loneliness contagion that was released during COVID was always been planned, has always been the plan. This is just the plan that we have lived through in this generation. And when you look back in history, there's always been that contagion that is re-released back into society. They're always re-releasing it, always trying to find ways to control the population. It's like crowd control.
Yes.
And so now you kind of see what's going on now. There's a lot of similar things that are playing out with like all of these viruses, and they're talking about viruses that, there's no need to be worried. But then they're talking about like, it's just like, it's laughable for me because I'm like, this messaging is hilarious. Given connecting like the red thread between all of the plan. This is part of the plan. And so I sit with, okay, why the hell is this happening? And what I realized is that the thing that is constantly under attack, and the thing that is how we as humans are designed to be held in that type of energetic containment, for lack of a better term, is that community has been deeply distorted. Because through the isolation, it has fractured so many people's communities. You look at it, the fact that you have communities that are food deserts, that don't have access to real food, and, having real food that has real nutritional value provides the body with the nutrients it needs in order to produce healthy cells, functioning healthy cells. So people are able to live in a state of thriving. And so that is part of a contagion too. It's a loneliness contagion. It shows up in that way. And when you look back in history, or you look at cultures that are they like to self-isolate from like colonialism or being part of the quote unquote modern world, right? That's laughable at this point, if I'm being honest. Is we have lost a sense of safe community because we're in these communities that don't feel safe. We don't really know our neighbors. We don't really feel like we have access to what we need to feel safe. And I think this is part of what is being under attack. because we need community. We as humans, the humanness, our humanness, we need community in order to thrive, not just survive. And a lot of us are not in safe communities, and thus we're in survival mode. And what we need is we need the kind of communities that protects humanity. We need the kinds that help in regulating our nervous system. We need the kind that reminds people who they are when life kind of pulls them apart, because this world is so dense and they're always releasing these contagions right out in the world and however they look like. And so when you start to look at those communities that self-isolate, that are not part of modern culture, when they're left on their own, they're thriving. And they usually start having issues when people come in to their community and start to contaminate their community. Their community no longer becomes safe.
Yes.
But the thing about community is that community provides, and I mean safe communities, community provides a level of safety for your nervous system. Community is that nervous system safety that we need. And when you're in community, you know, healing can take place because your nervous system feels safe. And then it moves from that, oh, I'm in this chronic state of threat and it's not safe to be out here. And so your body, your digestive system very specifically, it slows down digestion. It slows down your capacity to digest, the digestibility, not just the things that you're eating, but just the digestibility of your life. And when we're in safe community, we move from fight or flight to rest and rejuvenation. And the nervous system, it needs safety in order to soften into that state to where real healing can actually happen. And so when we look like historically, communities that are really safe communities, you can heal. Like you like think of like historically, like humans were healed in tribes. You know, they used to have like this hut, like in I can't remember the name of the group in Africa, but they used to have healing huts. They called them like, it translates to healing huts. And you would go to the hut if you were like wounded, once you like left the safety or the confines of the community. That's usually when people would get sick. Someone would go out of the safety of the community and come back and maybe bring a contagion, or they would come back like wounded or what have you. And they would put them in the healing tent, and they knew that they were safe and that they were held, and the body could switch to that healing mode because the body knows how to heal on its own. But if it's not in the right attunement state, not in that right frequency with like the nervous system, like how it's activated, that doesn't happen. And so we need that co-regulation that happens in those healing tents within those safe communities. We need also a level of emotional witnessing, people sitting with, because you have cultures who, a lot of native cultures where they have people who eat the sins, or they could translate the eating the sins of the other. And so they eat the emotions, the heavy emotions of other people. And so they're witnessing their emotions through the eating and the consumption of it. And that happens in a safe community. So we need the emotional witnessing. We need that relational safety of knowing, okay, I'm in my community. I know that I'm safe here, that I'm contained here. And there's a level of collective care. And so the body, it does not heal well in isolation, going back to the isolation contagion. So that's why so many people during COVID They were already in a state of isolation. They were already disconnected from the sense of community that a lot of people had. They couldn't even go to their jobs and be around some people. Like if that was a job that they have, they couldn't go visit their elderly parents, because they were afraid that they were going to get them sick.
That's right.
So, and like even they couldn't even visit their neighbor in the way that really felt safe for some people. Some people were just like, I'm just not going to be around anybody.
That's true.
And the body, it just doesn't heal well in isolation, because when you're already in a state of isolation, there's a level of sadness, which means that your nervous system is not in a state of health. And when you come in contact with the pathogens that are out there, your capacity to have the resiliency or that guard already up is already de-escalated, is lowered because of the isolation that you're in. You're sad that you're not able to connect with your community or your people that provide that co-regulation of being in safe community. Mm-hmm. And so here we are kind of seeing like the resurgence of what was released in 2020. It's like, okay, this is the new isolation contagion. And I think there's this awareness around how when we're in safe community, we don't need other people to save us. We can take care of ourselves. And now you see like this politics, the politic conversation. And I have changed my complete stance on politics. I don't care about politicians. I even have come to the point where I'm like even evaluating, does voting really help my community? Because I have voted time and time and time again, just even on the local level, where they say they're going to do something and then find out our mayor where I live during COVID times, come to find out he was taking money and stealing money that would help our community. And it's like, I voted for this guy because I thought I could trust him. He didn't help the community. He stole it and took it for himself. And so we need to focus on building our communities, to being in safe communities and creating that. We need to save ourselves. So we need to stop seeking this external people who don't give a shit about us. Quite honestly, they can't give a about us because they're compromised. They're taking money. They come on now.
Right.
That's how the system is designed. And I think once you start to understand how systems are designed and how these systems attack our community structures in our capacity to be safe, because they know that when we're in safe communities that we're able to co-regulate, that we're able to heal, that we're able to thrive, that we don't have sickness, that we don't have illness, that we have the capacity to tap into the magic of who we are and our source, and we're able to move the world in a higher frequency, in a higher vibration, like the earth around that healthy, safe community is thriving. We know how to be in this co-relationship, the steward-like relationship within nature and the animals, and it becomes this beautiful ecosystem. That's what's being attacked. That's what has always been attacked. When I have conversations with my mom, when I think of the conversations that I had with my elders and the conversations I'm still having with elders, the community has always been what has been attacked. And we got to come back to that. We have to realize, is this person, do they really give a shit about creating safe community? Or are they trying to destroy the safety within our community? We have to start asking those questions. We have to not just believe because they come in a pretty package or like, oh, they're part of this party or that party, then they must be aligned with us. And I think we can say, like, to the point where I'm looking at the politicians, and I don't see a separate side. I think they're doing the same thing, but they're just speaking a different language. The lack of helping people, because there's no reason that people should be paying these ridiculous amount of money for gas. We allegedly have gas storages and reserves. So why is the gas going up? Why aren't we tapping into that? Right. So there's bigger conversations to have. Now they're talking about food shortages coming up and like, oh, the power, like they're talking about like, we don't have enough power, but then they'll allow these data centers to come into places to consume the water and to drain the system, because people about maintaining your sense of safety within your community. And we have to look at what is around us that is against us. And we have to take our power back and start to rebuild that safe community that starts within ourselves. And thus we can then start to extend that with people. That's always been, when you look back at like slavery time for Blacks in America, we did our best to create a sense of safe community in spite of being in a community that was not safe for us. They didn't care about our safety. So I'm stepping off my soapbox. I'm going to close my notebook because I can go on and on and on.
Tell the truth and saying the truth.
But I just really want people to not feel so disempowered, to not feel like the world is failing them.
Right.
Because I know that if we can remember the power of creating safe community and finding, there's people that are doing that. They're doing that now. Maybe seek that out, or maybe create it. Maybe you need to find a way to create it. Yeah. I know we're always talking about creating safe community as well. So I think that's where we're moving towards. I think that is where the balance, the recalibration is kind of happening too. I think that's what the war is really about, if I'm being honest. And now once you know better, you can do better. So now do something with it. We got to save ourselves.
That's a fact. We put, I said, and I'm glad you kind of put it from take, which, the take that I come from. And so when you hit it deeply in this matter, it just brings back that I lose my thought, that I was saying to people that similar thing about, and we were just talking about this weekend, was community and creating and doing that, and not even in the same culture. Even though there's still people who will attract this group of people, that people attract that, but long as it's cohesive and on a positive nature. Also, when you were speaking, brought me back, because I talk about longevity, not about leaving body, but how I live it in it, because there is someone who's right next door to my fair state that I would love to speak to them. I don't know how to, I guess I could make it possible. All somebody, I guess, could do is tell me no. She is 115 and a half years young. Just imagine that. So there's something when we talk about community, and community was big when they were talking about on YouTube, on Netflix rather, and it's still there, and it talks about how to live to 100. Now, for you who think I don't want to live that, the thing of it is I have a story that says that I can. The thing of it is I have experienced things that people think that older is supposed to experience. But you have to get out of why not live to 100? Why not? And why not do what's necessary that you could actually exist in your body at that. So they talked about community, which is huge. They talked about food. Now we have a couple of blue zones. They call them blue zones. I think there's one in Loma Linda, If I got it right, there's another one somewhere else in the community, the food, and what they have done to do exactly what you've just talked about, what I talk about when I'm in the streets, um, or talking with someone else about that. And why would I, considering what I've been through, what you know that I've been doing, and only a few people know, the endurance of what it took to stay in my body because I hadn't done what I need to do, which is to be right here with y'all. So why would I put a limit? I said, why would I put a limitation on long? And people say, oh, it's short. Well, hell, I mean, it's short. I'm just trying to that because I tell you, when we look at the contagions, this and that, and we talk about condition, we talk about this. What do you know from when you came out the womb of your mother to 10 years old? Well, let's say to 5 now, because there's a whole dynamic to change with these kids. It's very, very, very smart from that to 5 years old. And then say 5 to 10, but I was doing it in decade version. And what you're learning between 12 and 12, and what makes you think you ought to get married in 1918 is in that kid when you've barely got to enjoy your life, set up your career, set it up where you're not struggling this, that, and survival. So there's a culture. They're known as the hunters, and one of the before I really got to know about them, one of my engineers had mentioned them to him, and it had a lot to do with longevity. And this is a while back, and health and how they live. They actually don't get married. They don't have children till way late in life. The women do not experience what we experienced from the studies I did. That's been a while back. And you're talking about, Eastern versus Western culture. And you're right. We definitely need to do something. No one person ought to have any much control over a dynamic of people like this.
Right.
That's why you have to think about it. And like you said, they found out it was playing. Well, yeah, it didn't make no sense to me that you shut down a whole country and I see more planes spraying over, and I'm like, I'm seasons, and I'm like, ain't nobody out here. I'm like, but hell, I mean, so community, food, fun. I mean, even watching this guy, I think he 70, 80, he can sit on the floor and get up because, they can sit on the floor. And you have different other cultures and Australian this and these things of this nature. So we definitely have to look at things, from the perspective in which you put and from the DP to see how does this make sense. And we can. There are people that starting to create a community. There's people who growing food. I was just visiting my he like a brother was my coach, his wife in the greenhouse and creating the food. I'm not a green thumb. I need to hire somebody.
You can hire me. I got you, girl.
Yeah, girl. So, it's just like when neighborhoods, but you have to have somebody continue to maintain. I know one of my spots in Omaha had, and I think they had several ones. What did they call them? Where they garden and you go and you tend to it, and some people might even have a section of their own.
A community garden?
Yeah, that.
I mean, the fact that community
was the name. Yeah. Yeah.
You just made my entire point. All right, bye everybody. See you later. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I also want to because I want to provide what I mean by safe community, what it actually looks like. I think, I was talking about community, proximity, but it's not just that. I think that's helpful. So some things, and this is how you can look at other people that may not be within proximity, is accountability. Do they take accountability? Is there reciprocity? I cannot even say that word.
Reciprocity. Yeah, okay.
Reciprocity. There you go.
That's it.
Reciprocity. I think that's a huge one. Reciprocity. I think there's honesty, repair. emotional safety. So like
Yes.
the amount of gaslighting that happens from a lot of people in power, crazy.
Yes. Yes.
Consistency, when people tell who you are, tell you who they are over and over
Bel-
and over and over
you need to
consistently,
believe them.
there's been no evolution, they're probably not going to change. Or they haven't changed when they say, well, you know, I've
Yeah.
changed now. It's like, I'm going to need some consistency and proof of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Compassion, boundary, and this is a big one, mutual care.
Yeah.
Mutual care.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So safe communities, they don't require perfection either. I think that's something that when you're in the state of rebuilding, it's gonna be messy, right? And I think you also brought up a really good important point about how like you don't have a green thumb, but I do. We need people in community that have different skill sets. And I think that in itself is a demonstration of you were born on purpose and you need to be who the hell you are. Okay. If everyone is in pursuit of gardening, but then no one knows how to build the housing, come on now. We need people to do different things. We need someone to garden.
Yes.
We need someone that likes to keep the records, you know, someone who likes to take pictures or maybe create art capturing moments.
Yes.
What are some other things I'm thinking of? Some of the electrical stuff, you know.
Building. I'm working with your hands, cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you call people who work with water, understanding like how water works? There's a certain
I know
word
about
for it.
that. It is a certain word. I called it water physiology. Well, I know about water physiology from one of the guys that I had met, who's a Japanese guy. So yeah, water physiology, learning how water works. And water, anything water runs over, it encapsulates it, even in the stream. That's why how we honor our ecosystem and cars, and going to the electric ain't bad. Yes, they got one that can kind of go fast. It just take a little while to electric up when I can just put the thing in the thing and it take me depending on how much gas. When I have to take it, then jumped up. But I've seen some people sit in the electric cars, and I'm like, well, how long in the hell does it take you to recharge the car?
It depends on the car.
Yeah, so
depends on the car. It just depends on the car itself. It depends on how drained the battery is. It depends on the power source too. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
Well, when you're traveling, you have to consider that if we convert, fully, and I'm not sure there's some battle and fight about that full conversion versus the gas, which would kind of help, especially with what comes out of our exhaust.
I just feel like some things are half truths, and I realize things that they say we need to have a sense of urgency around. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is manufactured messaging or talking points. It's kind of conditioning. I think there are some things that are
I would be in agreement.
But I also know that there's a lot of manipulation. And the fact that they were in the Epstein files, in the emails talking about let's plan this event, and then it happened, I think we need to start questioning every single thing that is said that is going on.
And that's what I did in 2020. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people started waking up.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this, I do recommend like go back and watch that episode. And there's a bonus episode too that's tied to that episode as well. I'll try to link them down below or add them in the button here over on YouTube so you can kind of see. Yeah, it's one of our more, I think it's our top 3 most viewed video at this time. So it hit a lot of people. I think it was relatable for a lot of people. And I sadly think it's still relatable right now. Kind of, I think a lot of people have never really recovered from it. I think they're in that chronic state of, a lot of people got the chronic, they got infected and now they're dealing with a chronic illness. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But
trust.
It's a needed conversation. Anything before we say goodbye to the people?
Nope, I've said it. Thank y'all for being present. Much love.
All right. Well, thank you, Warrioress Ardeshir, for being in conversation with me today.
Deep bow.
Deep bow. I appreciate you. And thank you for those that have been here the entire time. And we appreciate you. And we hope that you will engage in the upcoming episode in whichever way that is, whether it be visually or audibly. Is that a word? Anyway.
It is now.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you in the next episode.
Take care, y'all. Peace.
Bye. Oh, I guess I need to stop recording. Hold on.